Hey everybody, Captain Mackenzie Gage again. Here we're going to talk today about the intelligence communities in the second of 4 videos covering your introduction to the Department of Defense and the intelligence communities for Hacking for Defense. All right, so the U.S. intelligence community is a federation of executive branch agencies and organizations. So the intelligence community isn't one thing. It's several agencies all up underneath the executive branch, some of which fall in the DoD and some of which you'll see fall outside the DoD. And they work together to conduct the intelligence activities necessary for foreign relations and the protection of national security of the United States. Now, this is an important point. The intelligence community has a broader scope than just the Department of Defense, and with the Department of Defense being focused on the M in DIME. So if you've ever heard that acronym before, the different elements of national power, diplomacy, information, military, and economic. The intelligence community has to meet requirements for all 4 elements of national power, and you'll see that with their customers here in a moment. So my personal experience with the intelligence community is at a tactical level. So intelligence customers, we have the President, National Security Council, heads of departments, members of the executive branch, Congress, senior military commanders. The intelligence branch, the intelligence community supports a variety of customers. So if you have a project from the intelligence community, it's important to understand what that agency is and who their specific customers are that capability or that problem is affecting. So for me, particularly as a Marine Corps officer, I am not an intelligence officer, and in the intelligence cycle, I am coming in at the evaluation and dissemination stage, right? I am the customer that helps identify a requirement and then receives a developed product. So when you're talking about the intelligence cycle, what happens in planning is that the need is identified. You'll hear intelligence requirements is a common term used to talk about what do we need to know. And then how do we get that information? So that's what happens in planning. And then you move into collection. What are we doing to get this information, right? So it's raw information, it's unprocessed, hasn't been analyzed. That's the key difference between information and intelligence, is that processing and analysis, right? Intelligence is verified, it's evaluated, it can be acted on. Information, not so much. There's different ways to collect intelligence. So there's human intelligence, signals intelligence, imagery intelligence, and open source intelligence. Sometimes you'll see acronyms used and they'll be said. So human intelligence, HUMINT, signals intelligence, SIGINT, imagery intelligence, IMINT, open source intelligence, OSINT. And the different agencies specialize in different parts of this intelligence. So OSINT doesn't have an agency aligned to it. All the different agencies use OSINT to support their requirements. If you're talking about human intelligence, you're looking at the FBI and the CIA. If you're talking about signals intelligence, you're looking at the NSA. But just realize that there's different collection methods that are used to obtain the information needed to produce intelligence. Then you move into processing. What happens in processing is the data is condensed so that it can be given to an analyst. So if it needs to be decrypted, it's decrypted. If it needs to be translated, it's translated. And it's getting ready to go over to the analyst, going through some data conversion. At the analysis stage, this is finally where raw information becomes intelligence. So patterns are identified, conclusions can be drawn, products begin to be created, and then we move into dissemination and evaluation. So in dissemination, myself as a Marine Corps officer and as a customer side, we receive a product and we're able to make decisions and act on it. So the person that's receiving the product at the dissemination stage is typically the person that identified the requirement early in the planning stage. And then evaluation. So for me, as an intelligence community customer, giving feedback, are my intelligence requirements being met? So, a personal point that came up through my experiences was in Afghanistan. When we were giving some feedback, we were being told where IEDs, improvised explosive devices, had blown up. But the information we were looking for is, where did they assess was the next IED, or the pattern? What were the next IEDs going to be? How can we get proactive with it? So that feedback led to some different information coming in for us. So that there is the intelligence cycle, and the very important part of this slide, because all of the agencies that we're going to talk about in the following slides go through this cycle. And then the difference being how they're collecting it, how they're processing it, how they're analyzing it, and who they're disseminating it to. Again, so agencies will conduct the intelligence in a collaborative environment. So it takes more than just one collection method to answer most requirements. It takes more than just one agency to come up with a lot of the key products that go to the president, such as the president's daily update brief and the national intelligence estimates. The intelligence community is organized into these 18 different agencies you see here on the screen. So the ODNI, Office of the Director of National Intelligence, we'll get into them here more in a second, but you have the Central Intelligence Agency that, like I said, they have a specialization there in human intelligence. But again, their products will work with these other elements that you see across all the different collections means to inform requirements that are brought up from their customers. So a key element here, as we look at the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, is the program managers advise and assist ODNI in budgetary and authority related discussions. When we say authorities, how can we collect intelligence, where can we collect intelligence, et cetera. You see there, their departments, DHS, the Energy Office, et cetera, have intelligence elements inside of them to focus on their collection requirements and their information requirements. And then the services have intelligence inside of them. It's important to recognize that who an intelligence professional works for is going to drive what their focus is. So for example, the Central Intelligence Agency has human intelligence officers or conducts human intelligence collection. The Marine Corps conducts human intelligence collection. The Army conducts human intelligence collection, right? So if you are a human professional in the Army or the Marine Corps, what you're collecting is going to answer requirements for the Army or the Marine Corps, versus the CIA is going to answer questions for the president or whoever else their customer may be. So with the intelligence community values, realize that they're similar but different from the DoD. So similarities, there's going to be differences between the agencies. There's going to be differences between the different services, intelligence professionals, and realize that again, they still are professionals. So they want to be deeply knowledgeable in their areas and kind of pick away at that. The one barrier you're going to encounter in the intelligence community pretty frequently is classification. So just be respectful and understanding of when someone says that they might not be able to answer a question in the level of depth that you're seeking, and it's just a challenge that you're going to have to work with in the intelligence community. Some additional resources. There's a lot of good resources out there with the Naval War College about the intelligence cycle process and the different agencies involved in the different collection methods. These are in particular are the different agencies' websites: CIA, NSA, and DIA. So hopefully this video is helpful to you guys. And if you need to, you can use these links or any other information to take a deeper dive.